As a partner, you can take a mindset of, I don't want to share my IP, it's mine, and it's my strategy, and it's ours is pretty much open source, right? We aim to be the most reliable. So we'll take anyone on in the ring. We'll just aim to be the most reliable. And then from a IP perspective, we build a lot of stuff. We share it with the teams at Atlassian so they can see what we're doing and where we're going. And I think you have to build trust. If there's no trust, then you're going to start competing for the same things, for power and control. And I think from our side, it's, hey, this is what we're doing. We're going to be the most reliable and we're going to move quick.
Hey everyone, Chip Rogers. Welcome back to another episode of Inside Partnering. So I'm really excited to be joined today by Rob Castaneda. Rob, welcome.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Gosh, your background, you've been in technology for many years, and I think you started going back. Now you're based in Australia, or you were born in Australia.
Yes.
Australian. But then around 2008, you moved to the US. Part of that process, you had founded a company called CustomWare in Australia, and then moved to the US. And, maybe some branding rights issues pushed you to change the name to ServiceRocket, which is a fantastic name.
Thank you.
And so since then, now, your company has grown to 250 employees. You were Partner of the Year last year for Atlassian, and just a great partnering story. So love to hear more about it, and I look forward to it.
Terrific. Yes, we won the Co-Sell Excellence Award earlier this year for Atlassian. I have that on the wall back here, and have a copy of it on my bedside table because it's something I treasure. But all jokes aside, it was a very meaningful thing for us because the evolution that the Atlassian partner program has had over the decades, going from partner-led growth to enterprise co-selling and embracing those changes, and just the recognition's been great for the team.
Yeah, congratulations. That is amazing. It means you're doing great work both for Atlassian and also for Atlassian customers.
Yeah, I think I remember Mike Cannon-Brookes sitting us partner CEOs down and saying, look, if a customer is using a partner, they should buy more. They should be more successful with the product, and they should get more out of it, right? To create more value. And if they're not doing that, then something is wrong with that equation. And we really took those words to heart just as one part of the ecosystem. Because I think over time, when you have a long-running ecosystem, you can get lazy, right? You can get a little bit, take a few things for granted. So it was a good wake-up call for a lot of us to, let's make sure we're adding value, as Atlassian has transferred from being just product-led growth to having an enterprise co-sell, an enterprise sales motion.
What's that transition been like? That's an interesting, I think it's a lot of companies are trying to figure out product-led growth these days because it's so powerful, but it's very difficult making the transition from enterprise to product-led growth. That's really tough. What's the transition been from Atlassian being initially really product-led to now being more enterprise?
And having both, right? So both motions work really well with each other. And I would say it's a lot better going from product-led growth into enterprise than the other way around. It's very different in terms of the entire ecosystem needs to think different, and there are different roles involved. And I guess the phrase, what got you here won't get you there, is the big one. And because a lot of things in a product-led growth setup, the partners do a lot of the work, and a lot of the transaction flow goes through the partners. And so as a channel partner, you end up building a pretty nice recurring revenue base of resell. When you then move into enterprise, and some of those accounts then transition, that changes. And so you really have to challenge your teams and challenge yourselves to what value are we adding to this equation? And if it's just a procurement relationship, that's not going to be good enough, like longer term. So I think there are some folks have really adapted. I think it's been challenging for some who have been really good at transactional flow, almost like product-led growth partners. and then saying, great, now you have to think about the enterprise co-sell motion, and more strategic for us. We think about like multi-quarter, multi-year roadmaps for our customers and how we're building their centers of excellence, not just, and maybe we don't even do the transaction. And so it's a very different skill set. It's been very challenging in a good way. I love the change in the business. I think it's been challenging for others, maybe not in such a good way, because it is a big change. But overall, it's been very successful.
Yeah, that's great. So tell us a little bit about ServiceRocket's evolution, working with largely with Atlassian, but really
Yep.
helping. I think you mentioned at the beginning you helped build some of the partner program for Atlassian.
Yeah,
In the early
yeah,
days.
we've been very close since the beginning. Since I think both companies were like 6 people, and when they made the decision to not get into services and just purely focus on product, and we were rolling out the product, then more and more work came our way to solve problems, and it was all driven by business challenge. So we did a lot of things as first, like we built the first training program for them. We actually ran Atlassian support very early on. So we had 1 foot behind the firewall, 1 foot out in the market for a long time. Now we're exclusively, we transition a lot of those things back internal and focus on the customers on the outside. We built a lot of apps for their marketplace and for their products. So I think there's been a lot of entrepreneurial fuel and opportunity to say, hey, go and try something there and prove something out and add value, and then also see how it scales. The ecosystem, I guess, how we all played in at the beginning, and still to very recently, a lot of the original founders were first-time business people and were customers or users of Atlassian, and then said, oh, great, I can sign up for the partner program. And so a lot of companies were born that way, which is an interesting kind of open source way to build a partner program that users become the resellers and create companies. And some of them are now worth a lot of money or have exited to private equity and taken their spoils, which is good for them. And but we very early on, we had a very open source type feel between all the partner founders, because that was our background. And so there definitely wasn't a culture of trying to go out there and win every deal. It was like, hey, we're all wearing the same jersey, whether it's Atlassian, and how do we partner on deals or help each other just make sure that Atlassian does well? Because if Atlassian does well, we all do well. And so we've been stewards of that and really trying to drive that culture in the partner program. Always want to be doing more of that and representing and just encouraging, especially a lot of the smaller businesses that are coming up. That's the next wave of growth for the channel. At the same time as how do we embrace the global SIs and help enable them at areas that they don't have the detail, but also leveraging the fact that they have some coverage that, hey, we'll never get. And how do you make those relationships non-adversarial? And so that we're growing the whole ecosystem.
That's interesting. So tell me a little bit about that. How are you working with some of the SIs, GSIs? Are you bringing people into projects that are very more deeply technical and getting into Atlassian technology? How do you distribute the work to be done between what you're doing and what a GSI might be doing?
Yeah, for many of our customers, they use the Atlassian platform. It's really their ERP for innovation. And so they're using the Atlassian tools to make their products, whether those be hardware or software. And so it's very critical, and it's a little bit unique because if you're deploying CRMs or finance systems, it's controlled, right? Okay, a CRM works a certain way, a marketing automation tool works a certain way, a finance system works a certain way. But the Atlassian platform, it's really a platform for how products are made. And over the last 20 years, there's been just as much innovation in how products are made than the actual products that are made. And so for many of these companies, they also have as many administrators of these systems and people configuring them internally as they have users, right? So it's almost like everyone can have the finance system and configure the chart of accounts the way they want it and do that. So especially in the tech sector, the innovation heavy areas, then because we will roll up our sleeves and get into the detail, make sure that things are working properly, and especially in the large migration to cloud, there's just a lot of things that if they go wrong, they're just very expensive. And so there's a lot of risk involved. And so we cover a lot of those details that the global SIs they just don't have the experience at that level of 20 years doing it. But by the same token, we're happy to work with them and partner, and they do some really good work at the cutting edge of innovation and business and vision setting that I think sometimes is more difficult for a smaller company to handle.
Interesting. Yeah. So that makes sense. So GSI may be doing some of the transformational work or business consulting, some of the strategic consulting kinds of work. And when it's a point where they're implementing some Atlassian technology, then they would bring you in to help do that.
Some of them have some of their own capabilities, but just depends on how in depth and how challenging it is, whether the customer needs the deep expertise or whether it's high level type stuff. But with over 300,000 customers, like there's a lot of work to do, not just the width of customers, but just the depth and the problems that people are solving with the Atlassian toolset and the system of work. There's really just an endless amount of ROI that you can generate. So that's a big part of it for us, is having the mindset that we can't do everything, but we want to do the best for the customer.
And you've done very well with that. You have offices literally around the world.
Yeah, so here in Palo Alto's headquarters, we moved the company up here. But yeah, Sydney, Santiago, Kuala Lumpur, London, and a few other offices, Toronto and Singapore and Manila. Yeah, so it's been a really good journey. The Rocketeers, as we call ourselves, we're all on board with what we're doing, but very blessed to get to do what we do.
Yeah, that's terrific. Congrats on the success. How have you? What do you think was what drove you all winning the co-sell partner of the year?
Co-selling excellence. It's interesting because every year they have awards that you can apply for. And this one, we didn't even know it existed. So I think internally they did some kind of voting mechanism, and we didn't even know until we got the news. Which
it's even a better.
That's why I feel that's really cool, because there was no influence campaign for us to, hey, we're going to win this specific thing. And it was the first time they had this award. So I think the first thing to understand is that as much as we are partners with Atlassian, they're also our customer. And our brand, which is the Rocket and ServiceRocket and what it represents, has to be something that their sales team and their go-to-market team want to associate with. And I think a lot of channel partners forget that, and they get to a point where they think that it's a right to work in the space, or we're so big that what are you going to do? We're here, where the customers come to us. And so I think there's this underlying need from us, or underlying vision or mindset, that we have to earn every interaction and have to earn every deal that we work on. Even if it's an existing customer of ours, they're still buying the Atlassian platform, right? So I think mindset is very big, and we do a lot of work around customer service and the brand. We've been working with organizations like the Ritz-Carlton Leadership Center about service, and because we want to be the Ritz-Carlton, not the Motel 6. And just like where you're positioning the brand. And the brand is so important, because it's not just how what swag you have, how you even then represent that brand, but it's every touch. It's what do the customers feel? And the big one that I think a lot of companies miss out on is how do the employees feel? How do the Rocketeers feel for us? And so every interaction, which is how are we treating them? Are we treating them like expendable resources that you can just scale up and scale down? Because how we treat them is then how they're going to treat the customer. And it's the same thing. You go back to any hospitality business. If the employees are treated well, they're going to treat the customer well. If they're not treated well, then you're going to get that haphazard piece. And we see this time and time again, where customers will tell us that, hey, everyone we interact with at ServiceRocket is quality. And that's a great thing. And we're still founder-led, and we're still self-funded. And I think once companies take on money, or the founders exit or whatever, then what you're left with is a venture. And sometimes the bean counters get control of the venture because they're the priority. And what happens to quality down the track is maybe the customers aren't getting the level of service. So what we think about is the level of service we provide. We want Atlassian to be damn proud of what we are doing with their customers and for their customers. And it's a blessing to be able to do those projects and do that work. It's not a right that we have to do that. And so I think that mindset's really important.
And I love how you started off talking about how important it is, especially in co-sell, how important it is for the partner sales team, field teams, to know, like, your audience is not just your customer, your mutual customer, but it's also the internal, it's all the partner sales teams and the partner teams at Atlassian that are saying, hey, I've got this customer, I want to make sure that it's done. I'm going to bring in ServiceRocket because I've had a great experience with them before.
The salesperson, account manager, they're putting their reputation on the line to make an introduction. They're putting their targets on the line, right? Because if things don't go well. So they're placing a bet on us. We want that to be a safe bet. And the underlying focus for us is not being the biggest or the fanciest or the one with the most funding or the most offices or the most people or the most whatever. We want to focus on being the most reliable. And so that's like, how do we be the most reliable? And
which goes back to brand, right?
Yeah, it's living the brand promise and having the brand promise to start with, and then making sure that how are we being the most reliable with everything we're doing. And so I think referrals then become really important and become very powerful. So then you might get one sales rep or account manager recommending you to another account manager, recommending you to another account manager, and how that works. But you're only as good as your last job. So you got to keep on your toes.
Yeah. How much as you said earlier, Atlassian there are a lot of capabilities. It's an enterprise solution, right? It's something that you can really turn into, handle a lot of different capabilities and workflows and those kinds of things. And I imagine you're getting very deeply into use cases and maybe some very unique kinds of things within a certain industry or whatever. Are you also creating IP as a part of that process? Or are you co-innovating where you're saying, hey, you're talking to the product teams and saying, hey, we're seeing a lot of this kind of come up. Think about that. How does that dynamic work with Atlassian?
Yeah, I think previously the innovation was around apps. And what we've been doing is a lot of innovation around code delivery. And the environment that Bill and the team at Atlassian have set up for how to work together is very rich, and they listen. So we're doing innovation around code delivery. What does that mean? It means that we share a lot of what we see. And we work with both product teams and services teams over there to give them insights. And we've built some really nice frameworks to help customers build confidence in what they've got. And we share a lot of the learnings that we've got from there. So my whole piece is there's so many, as a partner, you can take a mindset of, I don't want to share my IP, it's mine, and it's my strategy, and ours is pretty much open source, right? We aim to be the most reliable. So we'll take anyone on in the ring. We'll just aim to be the most reliable. And then from a IP perspective, we build a lot of stuff. We share it with the teams at Atlassian so they can see what we're doing and where we're going. And I think you have to build trust. If there's no trust, then you're going to start competing for the same things, for power and control. And I think from our side, it's, hey, this is what we're doing. We're going to be the most reliable, and we're going to move quick. So if you want to replicate what we're doing, go ahead. But you might want to just put your energy somewhere else, right? Where you might get a bit bigger return from it. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. I think right now, I would say we have backed off trying to make public apps because the platforms are changing. The human-computer interface is changing to AI and voice and other things. And I think if you're a partner trying to build bespoke apps and solutions, it's all power to you, but I can't work out how to pitch to my board that we should be doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you mentioned earlier that the whole product development process has changed so much over the years. Tell me more about that and how has that affected both Atlassian and your services business?
Yeah, I think early on it was bug tracking, issue tracking, and that's a predominantly engineering thing on a PC under the desk. And the pattern we identified there were other teams inside of the company that wanted to do what that smart engineer was doing. So we would not train the early adopter, we would train the next people to copy what that person was doing and spread that. And I think we looked at tech and then we see that spread through other areas of the business, where it be IT, and now there's business teams and deployments are in the cloud and there's a little bit more enterprise setup. But ultimately, now we're solving business problems, whether it be through Jira Service Management, Service Desk, whether that be still the core software development, or now it's in enterprise strategy and planning and more higher level challenges to solve. And so I think that if you're a company and you're running on the Atlassian platform to have other and your product business, then that's the core engine of the company. So adding more things onto it is actually a lot more natural than trying to build product development software on top of a help desk,
Mm-hmm.
on top of a CRM or something else. So it's a big part we're doing. The piece which has been really unique for us is being able to work in Silicon Valley with some of the largest companies in the world, both in terms of scale, not just market cap, but just in everything they're doing. And then be able to take those lessons to other cities and other countries around the world, and those lessons. Like when we go to Australia, there's just nothing of that scale. And so we're able to partner very closely with organizations. And when they give us their metrics, we're like, yeah, we'll be okay, right? On that side. So I think it used to be probably an 18-month time frame between innovation in Silicon Valley and Sydney, for example. Now that's a lot tighter, right? Sometimes maybe a quarter or two, but in sheer scale, it's still nothing really beats what's happening in Silicon Valley.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I think you, Rob, are also very active here in the Bay Area and with advisory work. We're on advisory council, customer councils, and then the entrepreneurs organization. Tell me a little bit about that. What's that?
So I've been a member of EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization, and YPO for some time. I think 15 and 10 years on respectively. And both of those organizations have been really key for me in learning, especially EO in San Francisco. Great crew. But to have a peer group who can help you with challenges and blind spots. And I think actually in building a partner program, the software platform is betting on us as a business. And really they're betting on me. And so how I show up, how am I learning? How am I getting better as an entrepreneur and as a leader? And so organizations like EO have a really good impact in doing that. And I'd encourage people who are building partner programs to make sure that the CEOs that run those companies, you're relying on them. So you want to make sure they've got the right support and the right coaching and business skills around them. So seen many great companies, financially go off the rails, and that's a risk.
So you're helping entrepreneurs and founders.
Yep.
Going through that process. Is it like understanding building products, hiring, funding?
All the above. I think through everything I've learned in EO, and I exercise in EO, and EO is not tech centric, it can be any business, but also within the Atlassian ecosystem. At the second most recent conference, I ran a session for all the newer partners that came into the ecosystem. And I was teaching them mindset and how I run our business and what we do. And I was invited to run that session. And some folks were pinging me like, why are you doing that? Why are you helping all them? I'm like, no, we have to build the ecosystem. It's not us against each other. It's us against all the other solutions that are out there, right? So we can't do all the work, right? And so it's the mindset of just paying it forward and doing the right thing is how we conduct our business. And that's how we be the most reliable, right?
Yeah.
We're just trying to live the brand promise.
Yeah. Rob, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate you taking some time with us today and sharing your story. I know you're doing a half Ironman
Oh yes, Sunday.
coming up. Good luck with
My
that.
challenge. Yes.
That is, I admire you for getting yourself ready to be able to do that. So that's terrific.
Yeah,
And then I
it's
think you're off on the world tour.
yeah, good to get this in before I travel. I've got Sydney, then I'll be in Malaysia because we are celebrating 20 years of our office there in Southeast Asia, which is a huge milestone. And when you're trying to build in these emerging markets, the longevity is really important for
Mm,
local
right.
customers. And then from there, I will go to the Atlassian team conference in Barcelona. And then from there, I'll come back here. So definitely, it is an around the world trip.
It is
Um,
almost literally.
how awesome is that? Like I get to do that. So
Yeah, that's terrific.
it's all mindset. You could be like, I'm going to be stuck in economy for so long. It's okay. It's a blessing to be able to do it. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Rob, thank you again for joining and sharing your insights with ServiceRocket, and congrats on the success, and really appreciate you taking some time with us.
Yeah, look forward to keeping in touch. And if anyone wants to reach out for any questions, I'm happy to help.
Absolutely fantastic. And thank you all for joining another episode of Inside Partnering. I appreciate it. And Rob, thanks. And we'll see you again soon. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you.